Welcome into San Francisco 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and today we are going to dive into two free agents the San Francisco 49ers may or may not be targeting early in this 2025 NFL season. Now, yes, OTAs haven't even begun yet, but San Francisco has been pretty active on the free agent market. Already brought in DJ Humphries, already signed Andre Dillard, and today signed UDFA Stone Blanton to a 3-year contract. And it seems like the signings, or at least the potential signings, are not stopping there because today the San Francisco 49ers hosted wide receiver Gabe Davis for a visit, and there's some rumblings out there in the ether that the team could at least be discussing internally, potentially adding Jadeveon Clowney, edge rusher, who just got cut by the Carolina Panthers a week ago. We're going to get into all that today, but don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave that 5-star audio podcast review, and let's get into if the San Francisco 49ers should try to sign Gabe Davis and Jadeveon Clowney. Going to get into the good, the bad, the ugly, the mixed, and why both moves are possible, and maybe why one of the moves really should not be on the table for San Francisco early in this season. Right now, San Francisco, they are past rookie minicamp. They're kind of inching closer towards the OTA session where you're going to have guys get hurt. You're going to have some free agents be signed. You're also going to see some guys get released as the team tries to find the best 90-man, then the next best 53 men to fill their roster in 2025. And two of those names that may be added during this period is wide receiver Gabe Davis. Now, according to David Lombardi, and I think it was Coach Yak on X or Twitter, and confirmed by Jordan Schultz of Fox Sports today, the San Francisco 49ers did indeed host Gabe Davis for a visit today. Now, if you don't know Gabe Davis, but the name maybe sounds familiar to you, go back a handful of years when he was in Buffalo, the overtime loss in Kansas City. Gabe Davis was the guy catching all those touchdowns against that Steve Spagnuolo defense. He was the guy that seemingly was looking to push the Bills over the top and get them to their first Super Bowl in about 30 years. Obviously, things didn't work out the way it did, but that was the game that led to the NFL and the Bills pushing to change the overtime rules, which unfortunately led San Francisco to what happened against them 2 years ago now against KC in the Super Bowl, where they lost after kicking what would have been game-winning field goal at the time. However, what about Gabe Davis? Does he fit in San Francisco? Does he not? I think Gabe Davis, who was released by the Jacksonville Jaguars just 1 year after signing a 3-year, $39 million contract, does fit San Francisco theoretically. The big question is, when you're signing a receiver that has a relatively known name, who's coming off of a $13 million on average per year contract that it got cut from 1 year into it, you have to ask yourself, do we actually need another receiver, right? San Francisco has Jawan Jennings. They have Ricky Pearsall. They have Jacob Cowing. They just drafted Jordan Watkins this year and Junior Burgeon, who is probably going to be their kick returner or punt returner in 2025. And they also have Brandon Aiyuk coming off of, what seemingly is a destroyed knee with the ACL, the MCL, and more ligament damage done to it last year, funny enough, against Kansas City. Then they had Demarcus Robinson, who was signed to a 2-year contract this offseason, but he may get suspended. He may not get suspended. It's certainly up in the air. The NFL has somehow not been able to figure out what they want to do with the guy that got a DUI last November. It's May. That was 7 months ago, and the Niners are still looking for answers, and so is Demarcus Robinson. But does San Francisco really need a wide receiver? And to, I guess, answer that question, you have to ask yourself, does Kyle Shanahan and company out there in Santa Clara trust, or do you trust the current crop of wide receivers in the room, not named Brandon Aiyuk and not named Demarcus Robinson, barring a suspension of 1 to 3 games this season? Again, I think we all trust Jawan Jennings. We have certain high hopes for Ricky Pearsall. There may be some low expectations, but I think we're all secretly wishing that Jacob Cowing gets some more reps in 2025. You don't really know what you're going to get out of Jordan Watkins, but he has, 4.5 speed. He's very similar in a way, at least when it comes to archetypal field stretchers, to Gabe Davis. Do you like Junior Burgeon, who really hasn't done much ever as a wide receiver? What about Tariq Owens, who has kind of been a bright spot on the practice squad? He was, in training camp last year, then got cut, then got hurt, then got brought back, and they look like they have high hopes for him this training camp and OTA season, and maybe he can push to make the roster in the absence of Robinson or Brandon Aiyuk. They also have Russell Gage and Trent Taylor and Isaiah Hodgins, a couple guys in that grouping that have actually had one good season of their career and are trying to hold on to their NFL livelihood, if you will, and Hodgins and Russell Gage. And depending on your answer, do you trust any of those people? And the real question is, do you trust at least 4 or 5 of those guys? Do you trust Jennings, Pearsall, Cowing, Watkins, Owens enough to make you say, no, they shouldn't sign Gabe Davis? Now, I think if you're any team in the NFL, you're looking for ways to get better. And I don't think there really is anything to question that Gabe Davis over his career is a much better player than Cowing, Watkins, Burgeon, Owens, Hodgins, Gage, and Trent Taylor. And so paper-wise, you're looking at the roster and name value alone, yes, Gabe Davis does give you a higher upside and likely more consistency out of the players on your roster. Only 26 years old. He's a player that has 4.5 speed, can get downfield, and can kind of fill the Jordan Watkins role, at least in 1 year. He can play inside, he can play outside, has over 550 snaps in the slot, and nearly 2,000 yards lined up outside. So you're getting inside-outside versatility with your wide receivers. He's an above-average run blocker. He doesn't mind getting his hands dirty. And from 2022 to 2023, he averaged at least 45 receptions, nearly 750 yards, and has scored 14 total touchdowns in that 2-year span. So a lot of reasons to say, yeah, why would you not want to bring that guy into the building? But there are some questions as to, would Davis want to do that? Or would San Francisco want to do that? The one overarching question I have to ask is, what's the price tag for a player like Gabe Davis? Now, when you sign a 3-year, $39 million contract and you only last 1 year of that, now it looks like it's because of an injury. You can maybe lean the way of there being a regime change and them kind of looking for ways to cut players that are having high price tags on their deals and get out of deals that the previous regime made. That's certainly an option you can have, or an argument you can have, or a stance you can have. But the one thing leaning in San Francisco's favor in this case is that Gabe Davis, he had $11 million fully guaranteed this year. So he may be looking for a cheap deal coming off the injury. He wants to get back healthy, go to an offense that fits him, which San Francisco certainly does. Would he sign for 1 year, $4 million, $5 million? I think if you're talking about that grouping, that kind of, collection of money, you can certainly, sell me on the idea of adding Gabe Davis to the roster, having him be your 3rd or number 2 receiver to begin the year, depending on how they want to utilize Jennings and Pearsall. Yet there are some questions as to what happens once Demarcus Robinson comes back. If that's 3 games into the season, does Gabe Davis become your number 4 receiver? Does he stay as your number 3 receiver? Does he get upset if he, is your number 2 receiver and he's demoted to number 4 or number 3? That's a conversation that certainly has to be brought up for a player that was one of these splash signings for Jacksonville one off season ago. And also, so say you're 1 month into the season, you have Pearsall, Jennings, and Davis. Demarcus Robinson comes back. San Francisco obviously signed him this offseason as one of their big offensive signings, which there wasn't many of those this offseason. It was Luke Farrell and Demarcus Robinson. And when you do that, the idea is, San Francisco values Demarcus Robinson probably over a player like Gabe Davis at the price tag Davis was getting paid for. Now, you add in what happens when Brandon Aiyuk comes back. Well, then just count on your fingers here. Brandon Aiyuk's going to become the number 1 receiver again. At least he's getting paid that way and is going to be given every single opportunity to become that again. And I would probably think San Francisco's hoping to trade him next offseason. So the healthier he is and the more he plays and proves he can be healthy, the more teams may want to acquire him in one off season's time. So you have Brandon Aiyuk, who you have Ricky Pearsall, who you hope can become this next big thing, if you will, in San Francisco in the offense. You have Jawan Jennings, who we all know he's that big slot guy. He showed last year almost 1,000-yard wide receiver. He's not going anywhere. Then you have Demarcus Robinson. Then you have Gabe Davis. That's a really good chunk of 5 wide receivers. But let me ask you this. If Gabe Davis starts the year as the 3 or the 2 and slides to 5, is he going to like that? There are a lot of things that Pearsall can do that Davis can as well. They're very similar players in that way. Again, they're different. Don't get me wrong here, but Pearsall does a lot of things Davis can do. And Shanahan's never really liked playing more than 3 wide receivers at a time. Usually in the previous years, it was Debo, Aiyuk, and Jennings. Obviously, you have George Kittle and company out there at tight end, but that's been the group for the last 3 or 4 seasons. Rarely did you ever see players like, Dante Pettis or Marquise Goodwin earlier in the tenure, or even a couple years ago? When did we ever see Cowing last season? When did you ever see other players outside of your top 3 guys? It has taken forever for Shanahan to get away from playing just 3 guys, the most reliable players over and over again. So, or Ronnie Bell. Now, he played because of injury, but Ronnie Bell, there's a reason why Kyle doesn't play number 4 and 5 wide receivers. And to that point, are you okay cutting Jacob Cowing, Junior Burgeon, Tariq Owens? Do you practice squad Jordan Watkins for a year? These are questions that have to be had. And to some of you out there, it's a pretty easy conversation. Is Gabe Davis better than XYZ? Cowing? Probably. Watkins? I would assume so, at least in year 1. And Burgeon? Yeah, right now he certainly is. But you have to think, those guys are on rookie deals, cheaper contracts. Those guys that had different kind of skill sets, although Watkins and Gabe Davis are very similar players. Shanahan may say, I value a cheaper guy that I can mold that may be in the doghouse for a season. But don't forget, Jordan Watkins was a early day 3 pick. He was their first offensive player drafted in this last draft class. So there is at least some value they like out of him. I don't think he's getting cut in year 1, even if he is practice squatted for a season. There's no odds if he gets cut, passes through waivers, right? So you have to kind of weigh all the options on the table for you. And for Gabe Davis, there is this, well, if I sign for 1 year and make $5 million, $4 million, but get pushed further down the depth chart, maybe even 2 or 3 spots when guys come back and get healthy, is it worth it for me? It could be. It could not be. And if you're San Francisco, do you want to pay a 5th receiver $5 million, where in previous years that was Chris Conley, that was Trent Taylor, that was Marquise Goodwin, Dante Pettis? Those guys you're like, don't ever really play. They are special teams only players. In the San Francisco's case, they just picked the best return man in the entire draft this year. So obviously Gabe Davis can do more than Burgeon can, Watkins can, and Cowing can in year 1 as a receiver, but a lot of those questions have to be brought up. I think Gabe Davis really does fit what San Francisco wants to do, but it's much more than just, yeah, he's good, sign him. It's how much you're going to cost. There's ego involved. There's opportunity involved. And for a month, it may be there, but once you get into November and October, December, it may be gone for a player like Gabe Davis. Although a lot of you out there may say, get him in the building now. You guys are going to get hurt. Why not? And to that I say, if it worked that way, I'd be on board. Fortunately, it isn't that simple. Now, I've kind of been sitting on the fence where it's like, yep, this could make sense. Yes, this could, go in a good way, can go in a bad way. What's Gabe Davis' side? What's San Francisco's side? Now I'm going to tell you why I would not sign Gabe Davis if I was the San Francisco 49ers. And I think a lot of it is a lot of redundancy on the roster. First off, because Davis is coming off a torn meniscus back in November, about the same time Aiyuk tore his knee up against Kansas City. He was just released by the Jaguars, according to them, with a failed physical designation. Do you want a guy that may not even be healthy day 1? I'm going to assume if you want to have a competition at receiver, which they seemingly want to have between Cowing, Watkins, Burgeon, Owens, and Isaiah Hodgins, if you sign Gabe Davis, you're going to want him in that group as well to see if he can actually stick around for you and beat out one of those young guys you have a little bit of faith in to become something one day, whether it's in 2025 or in the future. So there is some rather serious injury risk there. Now, I tore my meniscus. He's an NFL athlete. He'll recover a lot faster than I did, but it's not a major injury. But when you talk about signing injured players, that can become a problem if things don't heal correctly. And obviously, with the Jacksonville Jaguars, if Davis hasn't passed the physical yet, you're talking about a guy who Aiyuk's on the shelf, Robinson suspended. What if Gabe Davis is hurt too? You don't want to have that on your roster, just wasting a roster spot or kind of wasting space for you. You can only put a couple guys in IR and bring them back. And you don't really want to put Aiyuk on the PUP list because then he's done for the year. It just becomes complicated at that point. And you want to save those injury spots for returns later on in the season when you're hopefully pushing for a playoff spot and getting healthier as the year progresses. One of the biggest knocks on Gabe Davis, though, is despite the good stats from 2022, 2023, despite the heroic AFC Championship game against the Chiefs, Gabe Davis has a problem with drops. We crushed Brandon Aiyuk last year, crushed Ronnie Bell last year, who his hands were absolutely terrible. Danny Gray couldn't catch the ball to save his life in practice. Too many drops. There's a reason why he has yet to see the field ever since leaving San Francisco, and a big reason as to why he never saw the field in San Francisco, even after being a third-round pick by Kyle Shanahan. But the league average drop rate for a wide receiver is 6.7, so around 6.7% of their targets, they drop. Okay? Gabe Davis, through his entire career, has a 9.7% drop rate, and he has 2 seasons of an 11% drop rate. Some of those are above 11, an 11.7% drop rate. Do you want that guy as a wide receiver? And I want to give you further context here because you may say, well, what did San Francisco have last year? Who have they had in previous years? I went back and dug deep into the PFF profiles. Last year, Brandon Aiyuk had a 10.7% drop rate. Really bad. Gabe Davis's career is 1% lower than that when it comes to drops. In 2023, to give more context, Aiyuk had a 2.3% drop rate. One of the most sure-handed guys in the entire league. Aiyuk last year, obviously, the contract stuff, he wasn't right, then he got hurt. Okay, so you can excuse some of that. That's the outlier season for a player like Brandon Aiyuk. What about Deebo Samuel? Deebo Samuel last year, we chastised him on this show, on the radio. Everywhere you looked, it was Deebo Samuel's not good enough. Some of you out there begged San Francisco to get rid of him this offseason, in which they did. And part of the reason as to why San Francisco no longer valued Deebo Samuel, amongst many other things, was an 8.9% drop rate last year against the Rams. Biggest game of the year. Can you beat the Rams? Can you keep your playoff hopes alive? What does Deebo Samuel do to potentially give you the lead of the game, maybe win the game? Right in his breadbasket. Plunk on the ground. Game over. You lose because he dropped what would have been a wide open touchdown pass after talking a bunch of crap on Twitter and X about his own team and head coach. 8.9% drop rate. Gabe Davis is almost 1% higher than that last year. And we were tired of it with Deebo. Why would you want Gabe Davis? Juwan Jennings last year, 4.9. Ricky Pearsall, 3.1. Now, Juwan has had seasons of 10%. And you go, oh my God. But last year was Juwan's breakout. Last year, in 2023, we're clearly Juwan has some of the surest hands in football. Gabe Davis has some of the worst hands in football. For every 98-yard ball he catches from Josh Allen, there's about 4 or 5 drops of 15-plus yards where you say, what's going on? He is a good receiver. He'll get you 6+ touchdowns a year. He can play in the slot. He can go out wide. There's a lot to like from a player like Gabe Davis. He likes to block. He can stretch the field. He would instantly improve this receiver room right now. He'd become the receiver number 3, barring a Robinson suspension. He would give you something you do not have, or at least you think you don't have in the room with players like Cowing and Watkins and Tariq Owens. However, with the insane drop rate, I don't love the fit based on what his role could be once Robinson and Aiyuk return. The drop rate's really scary. Then you say, hey, he's not even healthy. Why would you want to do that? Now, maybe you wait a few weeks or so, he gets healthy, he visits you today, and everything works out. On a low risk, cheap deal, do it. It's worth it. Low risk, high reward kind of player. But if the price tag's high, there's a lot of reasons to say, I don't want Gabe Davis in San Francisco. A lot of reasons to kind of makes me scoff at what he did in Buffalo for 2 years. He was a non-factor last year in Jacksonville. He's only 26 years old, so there's plenty of health left. You seemingly have a longer shelf life in the NFL ahead of you, but the room right now, like, you're going to have egos and guys fighting for a job, which maybe to you like that out there, but the drop rate, the injuries, and the fit when it comes to what happens when guys come back from injury, if they ever do, we never know, obviously. But for Gabe Davis, what if he can't pass a physical? Then he never signs with you, and it becomes a problem. So a lot to like from Gabe Davis. Also a lot to, pump the brakes on the idea of signing him. I would not sign Gabe Davis. I would rather ride out there with Pearsall and Jennings, and when he gets not suspended, Demarcus Robinson, give Cowling a chance in the slot and be the gadget guy. They love Tariq Owens enough where before they had signed Demarcus Robinson and drafted Jordan Watkins, they were talking about that's the guy they love, and they don't feel like they have to add anybody this offseason. Obviously that changed, but they love Tariq Owens a lot. So if you like him a lot, play him. See what he's got. I'd rather you see what you got in house at certain points than spend $5 million on a player who may be a fifth receiver for you. That's a waste of money, waste of funds. But somebody goes down, if Davis can be healthy for you, there's a lot of reasons to like, but I'm very hesitant to spend money on a player that doesn't catch the football very well, has injury history now, and there could be ego involved somewhere. But do you want to sign Gabe Davis? Do you like the prospects of signing Gabe Davis? Do you say, Sterling, you're crazy? Why wouldn't you want Gabe Davis? Tell me down below in the comments. Would you sign Gabe Davis? Would you not sign Gabe Davis? And while you're down there in the comments, I want you to go into your browser and go to SeatGeek.com so you can buy your concert tickets, your baseball tickets, your NBA playoff tickets, and your NFL tickets. Schedule drops on Wednesday. Pre-sale starts very, very soon. Use that promo code 49ers Access. 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. Tickets are expensive, man. Beer is expensive. You want to save money any which way, gas is still expensive. It costs $20 to park at most arenas and stadiums. You can get free parking. You can get a free beer. You can save a little bit of money in the economy by using that promo code 49ers Access at SeatGeek.com. Okay, moving on to free agent number 2 that San Francisco may or may not decide to sign this off season. That being edge rusher Jadeveon Clowney. Now, Clowney has been often rumored to go to San Francisco. The connections have been there seemingly his entire career after he was in Houston. He's a player that got cut by Carolina last week, 1 year into a 2-year, $20 million contract. And while there is a lot of consensus amongst Niner fans of like, yes, sign Gabe Davis, there's a lot of divide as to if San Francisco should go and try to sign a player like Jadeveon Clowney, which to me, that's a lot. Like that's shocking that this fan base is more on board with signing a 4th or 5th receiver compared to a number 2 edge rusher or a number 3 defensive end opposite Nick Bosa and give Saleh more firepower. The offense has plenty of weapons. McCaffrey, Kittle, Aiyuk when he's healthy, Demarcus Robinson when he's not getting DUIs, Purdy, Jennings, Jordan James. I just like there are a lot of guys out there. And fans say, go Davis is my pick, not Jadeveon Clowney. It's really confusing to me, but Clowney's a player that, let's be honest here, he's never really lived up to that, number 1 overall pick potential. He had that big tackle at South Carolina for the Gamecocks, and then it was like, yep, bona fide number 1 pick for Houston, and he had some good season out. He's, out there with the Texans, but never really, he's not a bust by any means. He's played 10 years in the NFL. Like, he's had a very successful career, been paid a couple times, but never really was like the dominant guy. Always been a really good number two, maybe a high-end three. Never a, guaranteed lock to get the quarterback 10 plus times. It was like, yeah, Clowney's good, but, not great, right? But for a team like San Francisco that is currently, on paper, going to rely on three rookies, three first-year players of this past draft class, Micah Williams, Alfred Collins, CJ West, to get to the quarterback, to lift the offensive or the defensive line up and wreak havoc on opposing offenses, I don't see a reason why you'd balk at the idea to not sign Jadeveon Clowney. He isn't a great player, but he's a good enough player. And right now, you need good enough players. You need guys that can contribute for you immediately, can help you immediately. Now, I do think that one issue that could arise with Jadeveon Clowney is how does it impact the progress of Micah Williams? Because I think Williams needs to start and play as much as possible, right? Your first round pick, 11th overall, those are guys that on day one need to be out there with the starters, need to be instant impact players. You want the guy opposite Bosa. You think you got the guy opposite Bosa, prove to me you're the guy opposite Nick Bosa, right? So there's a lot that Michael needs to play, and I agree with all of that. Michael needs to be out there for, 35, 40 snaps a game, and be the main guy, play inside, play outside, get the most reps as he can. However, you're also in a room that has Nick Bosa. You know what you're getting out of him. You're getting, near DPOY candidate stuff every single year. You're getting, 10 sacks. You're getting, 60 pressures. You're getting bona fide top edge stuff. Behind him, though, it's Williams, who's in year one, unproven, but first year talent or first round talent. Then it's Yetur Gross-Matos, who missed a lot of time last year, has never really produced, but he can play inside, he can play outside, he can be in those NASCAR packages for you. There's reason to believe he can be a good 3 or 4 edge rusher for you. And there's Sam Aquanu, who kind of came out of nowhere last year, but in my opinion, on designated passing downs, he becomes your edge rusher. Michael slides inside. But then there's Robert Beal Jr., then there's Drake Jackson, who you just cut. You need a body in that room, and you need someone that's proven because, I'm sorry, Michael's a first-year player. Gross-Matos is a fine enough player, but you just don't know what he's going to give you ever. Samo had one good season, and you believe, and I believe there's more to him than last year showed, but he's kind of got one role and one role only. Then Beal Jr. has done nothing through 2 years now with San Francisco. So why would you not want to bring in Jadeveon Clowney? Imagine adding a guy to that room who we can all say there's some high potential in there. There's some guys that can get it done if they're hitting their ceilings. Bosa, Micah Williams, if Samo on third downs, and then in my head I go, imagine a guy that's averaged 50 plus pressures, nearly 8 sacks, and a 68.7 run defense grade over the last near half decade. Why wouldn't you not want to add that guy to your room? That's a good player. He's 32 years old. Who cares? 1 year deal, 2 year deal. Get him in your building. Have him be your number 2, number 3 guy. If Michael struggles, boom, there's Jadeveon Clowney. If somebody goes down, boom, there's Jadeveon Clowney. I'd rather have no Robert Beal and have Samo and Gross-Matos be the depth guys. You say, okay, there's your Arden Key. There's your Charles Omenihu. Then boom, here's your Ebukam with Jadeveon Clowney. And then you have the high-end guys like Bosa and Micah Williams. Now, it isn't a one-for-one comparison to the 2021 defense, but this feels like a guy you want to bring into the room to help improve it in some way, right? You want to get to the quarterback, he'll give you 7 sacks, 8 sacks a season, guaranteed. Why would you not want that guy into your room? And he's also a rather competent, if not above average, run defender. He can play on base downs if Michael struggles. If you want to get tricky and utilize guys on first down, 1st and 10, you want to get to the quarterback, boom. Michael's playing inside. Jadeveon's outside. So is Bosa. There's Alfred Collins. Oh my God, you have dudes that can move bodies around. And Jadeveon's also been relatively healthy. Played 14 games the last 2 seasons. And like we all saw last year, health is wealth, right? Leonard Floyd was healthy last year for every single game. It's a reason as to why San Francisco had signed Floyd and traded for Malik Collins and traded away or cut Eric Armstead. They wanted to get healthier. Now, those guys didn't play well, but they were healthy. Well, Jadeveon can play well and also be healthy for you. Why would you not want to add a guy to the room like that? And I found only 2 reasons. 2 reasons as to why anybody would not want to add a guy like Jadeveon Clowney to the San Francisco 49ers. The first one, and it's always the answer, is money. What's the price tag? It's the same thing for Gabe Davis. Yeah, it fits. Yeah, you'd help. How much, though, right? I was at Costco just now. Me and my wife spent $630 on groceries. Now, we went out there and bulked up and whatnot, but there was some stuff we were saying, hey, we want to buy these St. Louis-style ribs. We want to buy, this kind of pre-made lasagna. We want to make things easier for us when we're back off work and whatnot. But, I don't want to pay $25 when I can go buy some pasta for $5 at Winco, and I can go get some pasta sauce for $8 at Costco and however much it costs, and I can get some beef for like $16, and I can, boom, a meal's done, and it's less, right? Like you can find things and make things cheaper. The price tag wasn't worth it for us. We want to go buy a truck. Why would I pay $65,000 for a truck that has 85,000 miles on it? I want a brand new puppy for that much money. It ain't going to happen. It ain't worth it for me. If you're San Francisco and you're Brock Purdy, you're out there saying, hey, we're going to bargain here. And they're going to say, Brock, you're not Patrick Mahomes, you're not Josh Allen, you're not Lamar Jackson, you're not Joe Burrow. How about instead of $60 million, we'll give you 53? And Brock may say, well, I've gotten farther than all those guys not named Mahomes. There's a lot of reasons to like Jadeveon Clowney. There's a lot of reasons as to why I want to bring in Jadeveon Clowney. Money's a big sticking point. And if he wants double digits, nope, not going to happen. But for, again, $6 million, $5 million, why would you say no? This team wants to win now. They're not taking a year off. They'll make a 1-year deal. The issue was Collins was 2 years. Floyd was 3 years. 2 year, 2-year deal. They don't want to commit long term. Jadeveon Clowney's not going to want a 2-year, $80 million deal. He's going to want 2 years or maybe 1 year. He's 32 years old. He may say, let me be a mercenary for hire. And if you're San Francisco right now, you want to save money for the long term, those are the guys you target. Mercenaries for hire. Jadeveon Clowney is the archetype of who you want in San Francisco. And the other reason as to why some people may not want to bring in Jadeveon Clowney, and it's one I dug into, because I saw it on Twitter, on social media. People were saying, he's like Devondre Campbell. He quit on the Cleveland Browns. And when I say, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. Devondre Campbell was signed to a 1-year deal knowing he was the placeholder for Dre Greenlaw. And once Dre Greenlaw came back, he wasn't going to play much. He knew that. That was what they told him when they signed him. That was the agreement, okay? He then was asked to go on the field and play as he was fully suited up, helmet in hand, and he said no. Then he walked off smiling, got suspended, didn't get a paycheck, and then was gone. Quit on the team. John Lynch yelled at him. It was a whole thing. The difference is Jadeveon Clowney criticized the Cleveland Browns, which in retrospect is a pretty easy thing to do on the team and off the team. But okay, I get it. Not a good look. Criticize the team, criticize the coaching staff. And what did he say that there was such hot water? Don't put your hand in that, son. You're going to get burned. He said the Cleveland Browns are trying to get Myles Garrett into the Hall of Fame instead of winning football games. I mean, have you watched the last couple seasons? Are the Cleveland Browns, outside of a Joe Flacco miracle, really trying to win football games? They may say they are, but they are the most dysfunctional team in all of sports. It is in the entire NFL. It is the Cleveland Browns at the top. Maybe the Jets are 1A to that group, but like the Browns have been terrible for 30 years. My entire lifetime, the Browns have sucked ass. Tim Couch, the 19 different quarterbacks they play in one season. The jersey that runs from the top all the way to the end of Route 66 of quarterbacks that have played there. Now, should Clowney said that? Probably not when he played for that team, but he wasn't wrong in what he said. And so what'd they do? They sent him home. He didn't quit. He didn't say he wasn't going to play. He just said, yeah, I'm probably gone after the season. This team doesn't really want to win football games. They're prioritizing Myles Garrett over winning games. Was it smart? No. But guess what he was prepared to do the next week? Play a football game. He was going to finish the season. And they said, nah, don't like that. Cut him. Was it a smart move? No. Was it dumb? Yes. It's the same thing Deebo Samuel did last year when he criticized the team and then was terrible the rest of the season. The difference was Jadeveon Clowney didn't get a chance to play because they cut him. And then what did he do? Went to the Ravens and tore it up. There's a reason as to why the Ravens currently are the odds-on favorite to sign Jadeveon Clowney. He was a good player then and a good player now. And to put the icing on the cake, he even apologized to the Browns, their players, and Myles Garrett and Myles Garrett's family. Big difference. He's not Devondre Campbell. Do you love how it looks? No. I don't want my guys doing that. But I'd rather you do this than be asked to go in the game and then be like, nah, I'm good, man. I'm good. And walk off smiling in primetime football on Thursday night when the entire world's watching. And you steal headlines when your team lost a heartbreaker playoff clinching loss. At least Jadeveon made a do-right, and he hasn't been a problem since or any time before that. Devondre Campbell was a chronic problem maker in Green Bay. It's a reason as to why, and go back and listen to it. When they signed him, I said, I don't like this. I don't want him in San Francisco. It was like, yeah, he's a fine player, I guess. He's an okay run defender, but he's terrible in coverage. And he has a bad attitude. And he quit. Jadeveon's not going to quit. He wants to play football. He's not a constant complainer. Would he accept being the third guy in the room? I have no idea. But at this point in time, he had a 2-year, $20 million contract. I'm sure he'll play for 8, for 7 on a 1-year deal. He'll be 33 next year. He's inching towards Zadarius Smith levels of like, hey, you're a 1-year deal kind of guy, right? I don't see why you wouldn't want to play opposite Nick Bosa and help Micah Williams and company and go get yours on third downs. And you can be a base down player for him. Now, will either one of these guys sign in San Francisco? The odds are very slim. But there's a clear role for Jadeveon Clowney. When Williams slides inside, here comes Clowney on pass rushing downs. If Williams wants to play inside on first downs, boom, there's Jadeveon Clowney. He's a better all-around player. And honestly, if Michael is your number 2 and becomes Jadeveon Clowney, you're okay with that. That's fine. Clowney was a serviceable, good enough player for a decade. Now, yes, you want more than that, of course, but Jadeveon's been an 8-sack guy a year, a good run defender, a guy you can play on 3-down player when he was younger. He's older now, but the last couple of years, still maintained a level of consistency. I see no reason as to why, at least San Francisco, Now, maybe Jadeveon says, nope, don't want to do it. I want to go to Baltimore. I'm older now. I want to go to a place where I'm comfortable. That can make sense too. But I am much rather in the group of pounding the table to sign Jadeveon Clowney compared to Gabe Davis, who by November, 2 months into the season, could be receiver 5. I don't want to do that. I'd rather get you a game changer on day one to help a really young defensive line that, let's just say, could have a third-year safety in Jair Brown playing, could have a first-year cornerback in Upton Stout playing. Maybe if Marquise Siegel has to play for whatever reason. He's a rookie. Nicholas Martin could play. He's a rookie. Collins, West. Well, you may have at some point in time a mixture of 8 to 7 rookies on defense playing at a time. That's a lot. Wouldn't you want a vet that can get it done for you and maybe give you some consistency? If those guys falter, we know the rookie wall hits you hard sometimes, right? Speaking of Drake Jackson, boom, that first year, he was doing okay. Then bang, against the Falcons, he was a no-show the rest of the season. Why? Rookie wall hit him. Wouldn't you want to have somebody to help Michael avoid that? Jadeveon Clowney can do that for you. You don't have the depth. You have some guys you hope can be good, but you ain't got the depth. Go get Jadeveon Clowney. But do you want San Francisco to sign Jadeveon Clowney? I know I do, but tell me down below, are you in the camp like myself and you want the San Francisco 49ers to sign Jadeveon Clowney this season? I'm all for it, but are you? Do you like the idea of pairing him with Bosa and Micah Williams and Yetur Gross-Matos and maybe ridding yourself of having to maybe in some world give Robert Beal meaningful snaps? It happened a couple years ago. You don't want it to happen again. You need some depth. You want to restore your defense. There's an 8-7 sack guy out there for you that most teams can't grab in May. Those guys are usually signed when they're cut. Leonard Floyd got picked up the very second he was cut by San Francisco. Go get Jadeveon Clowney for a year. Give him $7 million, $8 million. Not 10, but I think it'd be a great signing for San Francisco. It wouldn't be a problem. He'd have a very clear defined role, and defense is much different than wide receivers. You have Saleh, you have Kocurek. You ain't got Kyle Shanahan saying, get in the doghouse, barking at dudes like, roo, roo, roo. No, that's not going to happen with Chris Kocurek. He'll yell at you. Saleh may flex out of his shirt one day, but you're going to play if you're good enough on that defense. And Jadeveon Clowney is good enough on that defense. So do you want to sign Jadeveon Clowney this year for your San Francisco 49ers? Or do you want to sign Gabe Davis? Would you want both? If you had to pick, though, who would you pick? Tell me down below in the comments, which one of those two players do you want the Niners to sign this offseason? You can also follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X for Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. You can use that promo code 49ersaccess, 49ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase and get yourself a can of Goat Fuel down below. It is the best tasting energy drink on the market and a healthy coffee alternative. Use that link down below and save yourself 10% off your purchase of Goat Fuel as well. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave that 5-star audio podcasting review. And as always, my name is Sterling Bennett. And until next time, stay faithful.